And part of, I think, the approach here thinking about these as tools for co-reasoning rather than as tools for output, or even necessarily just as tools for tutor chatbots and things like that. New forms of output which necessitate engagement with some of these critical lenses that we use.
Okay, so that's an interesting concept. I think this is the first time, sort of heard about this co-reasoning. What do you mean by that?
Yes. It's a term that will probably get some people upset because you get into this whole argument of whether LLMs reason. And to some extent, that's not an argument I care too much about for reasons we could talk about later. But the idea of co-reasoning is that, again, if I come back to this map idea, you sort of navigate the world with a map, and it's an interactive process. You're trying to figure out where to go, how to get there, and kind of imagine a paper map for the moment. We could talk about what a GPS means, but you kind of look at where you are on the map, you see where you are, you kind of do a little processing, you get somewhere else, you pull out the map, and you're navigating, right? The idea here is very similar, that a student is reasoning, but they're reasoning with the help of something that's sort of giving some structure to what they're looking at. That's when they kind of poke at the structure, can sort of reformulate that. If anybody listening is familiar with the work of Alan Kay back in the 1970s, Alan Kay had this idea that a lot of what computers would do would be to help students and professionals sort of model reality so they could kind of prod and poke at the reality and say, all right, so that sort of maps out what we know. What happens if we move this over here? What happens if we take this assumption and sort of pull it out? What does it look like then? And that's, I think, the sort of approach that intrigues me about AI and learning, is that sort of Alan Kay approach, that these are tools which whether they reason or not, they can help model our world. And anything that can help model our world, whether that's a summary as a model, my tool produces an argument model, other things produce other models. Anything that can model the world is useful to learning. Because once you have a model of the world, you can start to push and poke at it, to change it, to alter it, to see what happens. And that's a really powerful mode of learning.